Hi, welcome to Bad Music Taste and Other Ways to Ruin Your Life. My name is Dominic.
And my name is Sam. Dominic has a record this week.
This week's record is the Argyle EP by the Bouncing Souls. This record was first released in 1993, and the copy I have here is an original pressing. Anyways, today we're talking to Nathan Gray of Boys Heads Fire and Nathan Gray and the Iron Roses. How's it going?
It's going well. You?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
good.
Wonderful. Good to hear.
So, you're currently on tour with Frank Turner. How is it
Mhm.
going back on tour after so long, and how were you approached to go on tour with Frank Turner?
Uh, Absolutely brilliant. I was completely unprepared to go on this tour, actually. I got asked about 2 weeks before this tour started. I was actually out on the road with Boys Heads Fire for a few days, and I got the email that they wanted me to join on this. And of course, I said yes. But then I had to prepare in 2 weeks an acoustic set with other people who also didn't realize they were going on tour. So it was fantastic though, and it's going really well, and it's awesome to be out on the road with Frank.
Do you ever get do you get nervous still about COVID even?
Oh yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know how
yeah.
to
I
phrase
think
it. Just
no. I think it's a pretty normal thing to be
Yeah.
nervous about. I mean, we all have to move forward. We all have to do something, but at the same time, there's always that in the back of your head.
Yeah.
I've been fully vaccinated, so I have every reason to believe that even if I got it, I would survive it and be okay. But at the same time, there's the whole idea of me getting it and it shutting down the tour. You know what I mean? And that's where the real thing comes in. Everybody on this tour is vaccinated. Everyone's protecting themselves. We're wearing masks. We're testing every few days. But if one person gets it, that could shut down everything. So that's terrifying in and of itself.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
right now the fear is not so much, at least for vaccinated people, the fear is not so much getting it. It's
Right.
like not being able to do what we've gotten used to. For me, it's
Yeah.
not being able to go to school for 10 days.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a valid fear. I think that also I think there's that fear that you might spread it to somebody who might be more susceptible,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's terrifying. You know what I mean? I will come back from this tour, and before I do, I'll have to get tested because my kids are under the age of being able to get vaccinated. So, I'll need to get tested before I go home, and I want to bring that home to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of variables in it, and it's pretty scary. So, but like I said, at the same time, we're at that point where we just have to do what we have to do to keep moving.
Yeah, because we've been on the side of like attending shows too as they've been reopening, and it's been amazing. It's just like, as well as the traveling aspect of tour, I'm sure it can be a
Yeah,
little bit more tedious than just going to a show kind of closer to home.
sure,
Yeah,
sure,
and
but
we're
Oh,
oh
sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
We're
Oh,
in
go ahead.
We're in Baltimore, and at least for
Right on.
Maryland,
Yeah.
vaccinations are a lot better than
Yes.
other places.
I'm from Elkton, Maryland, so
Yeah.
I'm probably about 30, 45 minutes from y'all. So,
Yeah. So I the fear isn't quite as much there
right.
as it would
Mhm.
be if like we were in Florida.
Right.
uh so yeah, and venues that we go to are requiring proof of vaccination, negative tests.
Right.
Um,
I'm really glad and happy with the music industry in general, with how well they're approaching this,
yeah.
with requiring, sorry, with requiring such things and trying, there's no 100% foolproof way, but the attempt to make it safer, the attempt to make sure
Right.
that everyone has a fighting chance so that we can get out and experience music again is so important. And I really appreciate the clubs on this tour, especially, who have gone out of their way to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible.
Yeah, and I feel like punks are generally better about stuff like that.
I would hope so. Yeah.
So you have a new album coming out soon called Rebel Songs, but
Mhm.
what would you say that that album represents to you? And is there anything like you'd like to talk to us about it and kind of just get the word about it out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what it is to me, so I started this whole solo thing with an album called Feral Hymns, which was a fairly dark album. And not only was it dark, but it was just me and a guitar and maybe some other instrumentation here and there. And from there, as I started to find myself a bit through the music, I went on to Working Title, adding in a full band. It started to get a little bit more, I don't want to say happy, but a little bit more joyful to an extent, in that it showcased sort of the ups and downs of life instead of just the downs, you know? And now with Rebel Songs, I feel that I'm in a point in my writing where I've become a lot more happy with myself. I become much more comfortable with where I am as a solo artist. And I've started to branch out into speaking on political and social issues, which I had touched on in Boy Sets Fire in a more angrier tone. But now with Rebel Songs, I'm able to approach these issues with a more positive outlook, with a more hopeful outlook, with a more joyful outlook on these political and social issues, that these issues are there, they're in our face, they're bad, but we can conquer them together.
Yeah, and I definitely think, I mean, music is the perfect way to get that point across.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, using positivity with it is a greater light. And I think doing solo stuff like that, it's sometimes easier to give exactly how you feel and how like your outlook on it is, because working with a band is great, but sometimes, it's multiple voices that are influencing the product. So being able to produce like you.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that after being in a band so long and having to bounce ideas off of other people, and I mean, it's the way a band is. You have to have common respect for everyone that's writing. And in this, I just get to do whatever the hell I want to, which with Rebel Songs has sort of branched out into this thing where I have used influences I've never touched on before, because it was never part of anything that anyone else was doing in the bands I was in. So there's a lot of really bizarre new influences like reggae and hip hop and things that, I mean, I don't think there's any like straight up reggae hip hop songs, but it definitely, you can hear it within the music and these influences. And it's been really cool to branch out in that way.
Yeah. Would you say that like being able to have that opportunity as a solo artist has kind of been a bigger adjustment, like having the reins a little bit looser as far as what you can do?
Oh yeah. It's been an adjustment in that I'm getting very used to it. But at the time when I was doing it, I wasn't so used to okay, what do you guys think? Oh, I don't have to ask anybody about any of this. Like, but at that same time, it's a little scary because you have no one to temper what you're doing,
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I actually did reach out to some friends and Brian McTernan, who produced the album, and just like, hey, is this okay? Like you have to have someone to bounce it off on. And I think this way is a lot better, to where I can bounce it off of someone, but I don't necessarily have to listen to them. At the end of the day, it's my decision, but I still get that that extra perspective on things where I can go, okay, here's their perspective. I feel that. Okay, let me go back in there and redo this, or I don't really think that's where I should be going. So it's nice to have that ability to have input, but not necessarily have to. I don't want to say respect it. I respect it every time, but I don't necessarily have to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what made you want to start doing solo music?
I think just getting older and realizing that I have done, to an extent, I've done everything I can with Boy Sets Fire. you know, and I don't mean that to come off negative to them or me or anything we've done. I think that what really hit me was thinking, if I were to die today, which let's hope not, but if I were, you know, and I think sometimes you got to think that way. Once you get a little older, you got to get your mind in that perspective to where, okay, what have I done so far? And what do I need to accomplish still for myself? And I was thinking, like, I could be very happy with what I've accomplished with Boy Sets Fire. I am very proud of my friends who have helped accomplish what we have in Boy Sets Fire throughout 25, 30 years. But I am not yet happy with what I've done with myself, you know? And so you have to step away sometimes and say, this has reached a certain point where I can be happy with that. And then there's these other things that I haven't quite delved into. I haven't quite brought them to that spot yet. So I need to push this off, get into this other stuff. And that's what really hit me, was that I am very proud and happy with what we've done with Boy Sets Fire. We've had so much time. We've done so much out there. And now it's time for me to be me. And if I don't do that, I will be very upset with myself later down the road.
Yeah, and of course you had experience songwriting, first getting into solo music, but was it still difficult just sitting down and writing music by yourself?
Oh yeah, and it was especially difficult. It's gotten easier because I've got friends that sort of help me and we bounce stuff off each other now. Gene and Jed and Phil and like a couple of people that we go back and forth with the music. But when I first started Feral Hymns, oh goodness, it was rough because not only was I just me and a guitar writing, but also I was writing about some really dark themes that I didn't really necessarily want to get into, but I felt like I needed to. So that was difficult. But as I've moved forward, it's gotten so much easier and so much more enjoyable. And I'm really having a great time with it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good that it's improved, but I think, like you said, like talking about those darker themes, like with music, it's hard to get into because you don't want to have to go into detail, but it's enough so that people can connect. Yeah. And it's a weird balance to have to find.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things that inspired me to get moving from that get-go on those darker themes, to get them out of the way. You know what I mean? To get them to the side so that I could move on and so that I could reach out to other people who have maybe gone through the same thing. So there's no getting to Rebel songs without starting with Feral Hymns, you know?
Well, Nathan, thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Thank you. There's great questions.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. And stay safe.
Yes.
I will do my best. You as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See y'all.